Take a trip back in time with me to 2013, the first real trip that I ever took by myself. I went to Ontario, Canada, and I had a few things in mind when I went there. I stayed at Homestead House in Mount Hope, which was a very wonderful bed and breakfast. It took me 8 hours to get there, which included driving through storms in Rochester and several other detours. One of my first stops was Christie Lake. This was actually one of the big things on my agenda. I just needed to get out, get into nature. Why I had to go to Canada for it? Well, you know what? Red Green Show filmed here, and that's going to be a common theme you see throughout this video. I only saw a portion of the lake. Had I known it was so large, I would have spent a lot more time there. Then on Canada Day, I went to the Warplane Museum, which I found out kind of while I was there. Not only was admission free for Canada Day, but they were flying in a World War II era B-17 bomber, Sentimental Journey, which did a flyover and then actually landed at the airport and came straight to the waiting spectators. And this, I do believe, is the first video I ever took with a digital camera. At the time I only had a Nikon Coolpix L26, so the quality's not so good and the frame ratio is 4:3, so I didn't do too bad. I did stabilize the images in some of these things, so it's a little bit easier to watch. Of course, the Warplane Museum was rather busy because it was a holiday, free admission, and of course the B-17 drew a crowd. It was actually hard to get a lot of photographs without people in it. They did have a jet that I waited online that you could climb inside of. However, the photos that I took inside the cockpit didn't come out very good. Some of the planes that are in this museum are actually flight worthy, and they do fly on excursions, very limited ones. They're very expensive and they were not available this day, and I didn't have money for that anyway. I enjoyed the museum a lot. It was actually hard to pick the photos that I was going to use in this video. The escarpment was one of the first places I went, which I do believe I went on the very first day that I was there. You can overlook Lake Ontario. Way in the distance is Toronto, which didn't really come out too well in any of these photos because of the limited resolution. Albion Falls was something that I found out about by the owners of the B&B that I was staying at, and I had actually gone there on a separate day, which is why the sky is a little bit different. I also went down around Hamilton Harbor, which is where Lake Ontario basically comes inland on the far southwestern end of the lake and just kind of becomes a small inlet. There were some really neat bridges, train bridges, pedestrian bridges. I did manage to catch a Canadian Northern train coming through. I did feature a photo here. And I also took some pictures at the, it was a foggy day the last day I was there, unfortunately. I tried to make a, kind of fake panoramic photo. Actually didn't do too bad in Photoshop. Then I did take a drive by Steve Smith's house, and he is the guy who played Red Green.
Destination on the right, 64 Aberdeen Avenue.
One of the other things on the agenda which actually drew me to Hamilton, Ontario, was not only seeing some of the filming locations of the Red Green show, but to actually see Mr. Used, which is where they got a lot of their props and the weird things that they worked with. And currently, they've auctioned off all the stuff since, but back in the day, Mr. Used actually had a museum, a little section of the store, where, as you can see, all the set pieces, the possum, the signage, many props, and the staircase that was used in the Red Green show. And I went there twice, and I talked to, Mr. Used himself, and, he offered to take a picture of me, which you'll see in this video, standing in the Red Green set. And the vest that I'm wearing is actually off of the wardrobe rack that he had, in the museum. And afterwards, he's like, "You can keep it." So that's actually a vest, and I think I've spotted it in a few episodes. That is a vest that the, Possum Lodge members, that are at the end of the show, you can see some of them wearing. But it's nice to have, it's nice to know that I have some pieces from the Red Green show. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this going back in time, seeing pretty much my one and only true solo vacation that I've ever had. I enjoyed being there, and I would love to go back again someday, and I'll stay at the same B&B. And stay tuned, I'm going to have many more videos. I have a backlog. I'm going to have Phillipsburg Mall. I've got other places, dating way back. I'm going to put together some videos because you know what? Right now we need to see something better than what's on the news. Have a good one.